Hi, I'm Chuck Gifford, and I'll be reading you selections from today's May the 21st Nantucket Inquirer Mirror. Our first story today comes from the top of the front page and is headlined, New but Familiar Faces Elected to Select Board by Sarah Roberts, May 20th. It was a big day for most incumbents and a former Select Board member running as a write-in candidate at Tuesday's annual town election. Finance Committee and Capital Program Committee Chair Jill Veith and former Select Board member Bob DaCosta each won 3-year seats on the Select Board, besting perennial candidate Clifford Williams. DaCosta received 1,919 write-in votes, Veith got 1,630, and Williams, making his 16th run for the board, received 1,161 votes. DaCosta, a charter fishing captain and Nantucket native, served on the board from 2011 to 2017. He launched a write-in campaign shortly after Amy Eldridge dropped out of the race. I was overwhelmed by the support, especially with the write-in candidacy, but now we've got work to do, DaCosta said Wednesday after being sworn in. DaCosta said during his campaign he would like to focus on the island's infrastructure and day-to-day municipal operations, important to year-round residents, seasonal homeowners, and visitors. He will also push for more transparency between the board and the public, he said. Veith pulled papers for the Select Board race last year, but ultimately decided to pull out of the race after incumbent Matt Fee returned his. This year, with incumbents Tom Dixon and Malcolm McNabb deciding not to seek re-election, she was ready to join the mix. I'm honored, I'm humbled, I'm also a little tired, but now the real work begins. I look forward to every minute of serving the people of Nantucket, Veith said on Wednesday. Veith owns a home design business and has served as chair of the Finance Committee. During her campaign, she said she'll keep an eye on the impact of the board's financial decisions on the year-round community. She's also passionate about community engagement and connecting islanders and said she hopes to encourage new ideas. Veith will now have to formally resign from the Finance Committee. The next chair of the Select Board was scheduled to be selected at the board's regular meeting Wednesday, too late for the print edition of the Inquirer Mirror. School Committee. Incumbents Tim Lepre and Chantal Blois-Murphy won re-election. Lepre was overwhelmingly re-elected with 1,677 votes. Blois-Murphy surpassed political newcomer Jenny Cook by 120 votes with 1,347. Heidi Fee received 993 votes. I'm very excited and honored that I've been voted for, despite me not putting up any signs, and just excited to continue the work, Blois-Murphy said on Wednesday. To those who ran against me and Dr. Lepre, it was a busy year, a lot of candidates, and it was a contentious race. I want to commend them and congratulate them on their very strong campaigns. Lepre said he's excited to get to serve another term on the school committee and again reiterated his biggest concern from his campaign, academic rigor and improving the reading level of students. Every kid by 3rd grade needs to be identified and reading at grade level. We can't use COVID as an excuse, Lepre said, and we need to support the teachers. He said school committee is the most important board and he's grateful for the opportunity to oversee what is going on in the school administration and advocate for the well-being of the students. Planning Board. The only incumbent to lose Tuesday night was Hillary Rayport, who was beaten out by political newcomer Brian Borgeson for a 5-year seat on the Planning Board, 1,457 to 1,354. Hillary ran a great campaign, Borgeson said. It's really difficult to beat the first name on the list. Her people showed up and my people showed up, he said. Thank you to all the voters who came out and supported us, and thank you for having 3,000 people show up to vote. This is our civic process, and these are the results. I'm very happy. Throughout his campaign, he emphasized the importance of having local people on local boards. He said he looks forward to being a voice for the average year-round Nantucketer and exploring ways to shape Nantucket's neighborhoods. I definitely want to congratulate Brian and also thank the more than 1,300 people who showed up to vote for me, Rayport said on Wednesday, and all of the people over many years who've championed and wanted my message, which was about doing the long-range planning for a sustainable Nantucket, directing the growth where we want it, preserving the island, and accountability for the long-range plan. A different message prevailed, Rayport said. She said she will continue to stay involved in the planning process as a citizen, however, as she has for years. I'm the same person I've always been, and I'll continue to stand for the things that I care about, along with all of the people who supported me, she said. I think that it is a responsibility for all citizens who care about this island to stay involved in planning, because planning is about community. It's not 5 people sitting at a table making decisions for everybody else. It's about the community coming forward. I'm now not at the table, but I am a part of the engaged citizenry, and there are a lot of people who are in that group, she said. Land Bank Commission. Neil Patterson handily won re-election to his 4th 5-year term on the Land Bank Commission, defeating Graham Vesey 2,051 to 784. I'm really humbled, Patterson said after the results were announced. It's a great honor, and I also commend my opponent. She ran a very good campaign, and I think she'd make a great future commissioner. Patterson, who has served since 2011, campaigned on the experience and a measured approach to expanding the land bank's work beyond the open space acquisition. Vesey, making her first run for public office on the island, pushed for the land bank to take a more active role at how its land and resources could be used for recreation, housing, and other community needs, while indoor recreation among her top issues. Patterson said the vote showed support for the land bank's current direction, but also said that the indoor recreation discussion should continue. The people have spoken, he said. They've spoken to say, hey, you should look into this. But Patterson said he still does not believe the land bank should build and operate an indoor recreation facility on its own. I think we can help do things, absolutely, he said. The Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board had 2 open seats for 3-year terms. Incumbent Peter Brace will keep his seat, receiving 2,267 votes. Kevin Korn also earned a seat with 1,052 votes. Matthew Peel received 862. The Nantucket Water Commission had 2 open seats for 3-year terms, with both incumbents winning. Curtis Barnes earned 1,535 votes, and Nelson Eldridge received 1,853 votes. Michael Egan had 1,121. Sarah Alger will call voters to order for another town meeting next year after receiving 2,728 votes in an uncontested race. The Historical District Commission had an uncontested race with 2 open seats for 3-year terms. Incumbent Valerie Oliver received 2,410 votes, and Raymond Pohl received 2,060 votes. Beth Ann Meehan was reelected to the Housing Authority for another 5-year term with 2,468 votes. Our next story from the front page is headlined, Voters Approve More Than $200 Million in Big-Ticket Spending by Dean Geddes, May 21st. After one of the most expensive town meetings in recent memory, voters backed every spending question on Tuesday's annual town election ballot, clearing the way for more than $200 million in borrowing for major town projects. The approved spending includes a new R-Island home skilled nursing facility, outdoor athletic facility upgrades at Nantucket High School, including a synthetic turf field and track, town employee housing on Wyatt Drive, a Somerset area sewer expansion, and debris removal work at Tom Nevers. The results clearly showed that town meeting support carried over to the ballot box, which came even as town officials have warned about other expensive projects still on the horizon. Turnout was 28.7%. with 3,052 ballots cast out of 10,632 registered voters. For the owners of a $2.2 million home, roughly the average assessed value on Nantucket, the debt exclusion questions that passed at Tuesday's town meeting were estimated to add about $490 to the annual tax bill with the residential exemption and about $829 without it, according to the town's communications department. The tax impact could renew discussions about increasing the residential tax exemption, which shifts more of the tax burden away from the year-round resident homeowners and onto non-resident homeowners, commercial properties, and residents who own multiple properties. Select Board Chair Dawn Hill said after the election that the board will discuss the exemption in the fall. The town can now increase the residential exemption as high as 50%, following a change in state law for seasonal vacation communities. Hill said she does not think that the town should go that high, but said a smaller increase could be considered. It's currently at 25%. I think we can go up to 50. I think 50 is too much, but I think we could make a change, Hill said. We always thought that we needed to go up in increments of like 5 or 10, but we actually don't have to do that, Hill said. We could go up like 1%, 2%. The largest share of the tax increase will come from the new Our Island home, which is estimated to add about $306 to a $22 million assessed home, with the residential exemption at about $518 without it. The Somerset sewer expansion is estimated to add about $95 with the exemption and about $161 without it. The school athletic facilities project would add about $59 and $100. Tom Nevers debris removal would add about $16 and $27, while the town employee housing at Wyatt Drive would add about $14 and $23 without it. The town's current debt obligations total about $345 million, but that includes both principal and interest. The cleaner comparison, according to the town's communications department, is the town's current principal projects cost at about $279 million. The roughly $228 million in borrowing authorized at town meeting and now at the ballot would nearly double the town's current principal project debt if all of it is borrowed. The largest spending question on Tuesday's ballot, the new Our Island home, passed 1,887 to 1,119, with about 63% of the vote. Hill, who has been closely involved in the project, said that she was absolutely thrilled to see it pass. I think it's a great thing for Nantucket, she said. The project requires $119 million in borrowing and is now estimated to cost roughly $140 million overall. It will replace the town's aging nursing home on East Creek Road with a new 45-bed facility at the Sherburne Commons Adult Living Community. The vote marked a turnaround from last year when the project narrowly failed at town meeting before passing at the ballot. This year it cleared both by comfortable margins. Hill said last year's defeat may have made more people pay attention to what was at stake. It's an interesting thing with town meeting. It's like such a snapshot for most people, Hill said. We work on it all year, but to slowly get the message across sometimes takes a couple of visits. The school athletic facilities project also passed 1,773 to 1,208, with about 59% of the vote. The $26 million project includes a synthetic turf field and new track at Vito Capizio Stadium, along with other outdoor athletic facility improvements, including increased accessibility. We're very grateful to the Nantucket community for approving Question 2, School Superintendent Elizabeth Hallett said. It is very clear that the Islanders care deeply about both our environment and our kids, and we share those exact same values. We are committed to delivering a safe, fully accessible, state-of-the-art athletic complex that serves our student athletes and families for generations to come. The debate leading up to the vote focused heavily on synthetic turf, PFAS, and durability and the need for reliable playing surfaces for student athletes. Kate Garrett, a parent, nurse, and coach who supported the project, said that the proposal was about much-needed upgrades to the athletic facilities beyond just the turf field. I spent years around kids and patients, Garrett said. I really saw firsthand how heavily those facilities are being used and also how far behind they had fallen. Garrett said that she was inspired by the network of parents, coaches, and community members that formed around the campaign. I keep looking back at how overwhelmingly amazing just the positivity, the dedication, the sense of a shared purpose that came from this effort, she said. Mary Lepre, vice chair of the Board of Health, a school nurse and a vocal opponent of the turf field portion of the proposal, said after the vote that she appreciated the public engagement around the issue. Whether people supported it or opposed it, I appreciate everyone who participated in the discussion and the vote, Lepre said. The closest of the major spending votes was the $7 million town employee housing project at Wyatt Drive, which passed 1,645 to 1,262, with about 57% of the vote. The town is grateful that Nantucket voters approved Question 3. Developing the first phase of employee housing at Wyatt Drive is an important step toward addressing the town's municipal workforce housing needs. These units will support the town's ability to attract and retain the municipal employees who provide essential services to the community, town communication manager said. The Somerset sewer expansion passed 1,790 to 1,108, with about 62% of the vote. The project will extend municipal sewer lines to 444 homes in the area between Somerset Road and Hummock Pond Road. At town meeting, voters amended the article to remove a 25% betterment fee that would have been charged to property owners required to connect. That reduced the direct cost for homeowners in the affected area, but shifted a larger cost onto taxpayers as a whole. Voters also approved $8 million for debris removal and erosion control work at Tom Nevers Park, 1,885 to 1,008, with about 65% of the vote. A $2.27 million capital outlay exclusion for town vehicles, equipment, and other capital purchases passed 1,916 to 979, with about 66% of the vote. The only spending question that failed at town meeting was $5.4 million for seasonal employee housing repairs to the male dormitory at the former U.S. Coast Guard Loran Station in Sconset. It still appeared on the ballot Tuesday and received a majority vote of 1,503 to 1,381. Because it failed at town meeting, it cannot move forward this year. But that may not be the end of the proposal. In recent years, the town has often brought back spending articles that passed at the ballot but failed at town meeting. The results of the election now commit the town to one of the largest waves of borrowing in its history, coming at a time when other major capital needs are still looming, including coastal resilience projects, municipal buildings, sewer extensions, a possible new high school building, and a new senior center. Our next story, the last from the front page, is headlined, Downy Flake Finds a New Home at the Fairgrounds by Kay Quigley, May 19th. The next chapter for Nantucket's most iconic breakfast spot has been written. The Downy Flake restaurant is returning under a new roof, serving its famous donuts, coffee, and some other breakfast items out of the Fairgrounds restaurant as soon as next month. A year and a half after the demolition of its last location on Sparks Avenue, the iconic restaurant has a new home for the foreseeable future at the Mid-Island mainstay former Veranda House owner Ethan Devine bought and took over from Bill and Kim Pooter earlier this year. Downy Flake owners Ron Oldman and Patty Kennedy have been in talks with Divine about the partnership since November, about the time news broke about Divine taking over the former Fairgrounds restaurant and Putley's Pub. Oldham and Kennedy have been looking for a location to reopen since they closed the doors of their former 18 Sparks Avenue location for the final time last fall. About a dozen different options arose between then and now, and a few they explored thoroughly, but they all fell through. We never lost hope that we'd find the right spot, Kennedy said on Tuesday. But when we met Ethan, after a number of conversations and a lot of emails and texts, we decided this was the right spot. Part of that was grounded in the fact that Divine was willing to let Oldman and Kennedy continue doing what they've done with great success for more than a decade. Everybody else was telling us what we should do, Oldham said, instead of saying, why don't you guys do what you know? It was also a shared sense of creating and prioritizing community that made the partnership feel like the perfect fit. One of the things that somebody brought up to me when I was thinking about Fairgrounds initially was this idea of accidental community. You need places where you can just bump into people, Divine said. What's cool about a place like Fairgrounds or Downy Flake is that is what I think of as a common denominator spots. Everybody loves breakfast. Everybody loves donuts. Everybody loves coming to a nice, comfortable family restaurant. These are the kind of places where everyone from one walk of life, another walk of life, or different orientations could all come together and join and happen to bump into each other and have a conversation, he said. Those types of places are becoming fewer and farther between on Nantucket, Oldham said. Everybody wants to go high-end, he said. You're losing the flavor of the little mom-and-pop or local place. You don't see a lot of that anymore. Ethan's here for the longevity, and he wants to carry on that tradition of families at the fairgrounds, and he's got a great staff. Some of them we've shared in the past, so it seems like that made it the right choice, Kennedy said. It's exciting. It's fantastic. We're very excited for Ethan giving us this opportunity. Even at this age, we get to reinvent ourselves a little bit. Try a new thing. That fits in with the history of the Downy Flake, which has been a go-to for Nantucketers for over 90 years across different parts of town. It had operated out of the Sparks Avenue location since the early 1990s, after a gas explosion destroyed the previous building on South Water Street. Carson Renemo Sr. owned the business at the time. He bought it from Gordon McDonald in the 1960s on a handshake deal. In rebuilding on Sparks Avenue, Renemo also kept the restaurant open nearly year-round. It remained that way until it was torn down in February of 2025, though under the two different sets of owners. Mark Hogan and Susan Tate ran the business before Kennedy and Oldham acquired it about a decade ago. Reopening at the fairgrounds will be the Downy Flake's newest iteration, Kennedy said. It won't be the same, she said, but a lot of it will be, and a lot of it will be new and better. That includes the decade-old Downy Flake Donuts sign, which will be hung in a location to be determined at a later date after it is refurbished by Barber & Sons. There likely won't be any full-fledged breakfast service at the new location for a while, but donuts, coffee, and breakfast sandwiches will be available out of a hot case in the coming weeks. The sit-down option within the existing restaurant is certainly in the cards, likely with a more limited menu than on Sparks Avenue, Oldham said, but we're all waiting to see how this first phase of the opening goes. It's about to be summer. We just opened here, so we want to make sure that what we do, we can do with quality, Divine said. That is especially true of the famous donuts, which they have been working on to perfect again over the last several months, with new ingredients due to changes in previous suppliers. Some of the manufacturers have changed some of the ways they do things, so Ron really had to be a mad scientist, Divine said. We've gone through, 400 pounds of donut ingredients, but I think we finally came up with a magic formula. Kennedy said that she and Oldham will be also working with Divine's team to improve Downy Flake operations as they enter a new era. There are some things his team can teach us, Kennedy said. They're younger and more digital, and we're going to do some online ordering, hopefully after we get the regular operation underway. I mean, we used to have those huge lines at Downy Flake, really almost dangerous parking. We're hoping that maybe some online ordering we can cut down some of that stuff early in the morning. We'll see. That's all in the future. She said that some former Downy Flake staff will be coming back to work in the new location, and they'll look for more if and when they look to expand into table service. I'm excited about that, Kennedy said. Devine is equally as excited to be a part of the breakfast business as his grandparents once were at the Overlook Hotel. That's my favorite meal. I've always loved Downy Flake donuts, he said. Our next story is headlined, Town, Water, and Land Council Join Court Fight Over Surfside Crossing, by Dean Geddes. 2 more court challenges to the state's approval of Surfside Crossing have been filed. The town, on behalf of the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Nantucket Land and Water Council, filed separate appeals last Wednesday in Nantucket Superior Court. Both are seeking to overturn the State Housing Appeals Committee's April 13th approval of the 156-unit 40B development. The filings came 2 days after a group of residents opposed to the project filed their own appeal. The ZBA complaint asks that the court to reverse and vacate the HAC decision and enter judgment affirming its denial of the project. The Land and Water Council's complaint asks the court to annul, vacate, or reverse the HAC decision, stay the decision pending appeal, and determine that HAC lacked jurisdiction to overturn the ZBA's denial. The ZBA argues that the committee ignored, quote, substantial evidence, end quote, about drinking water protection, stormwater, PFAS, public safety, traffic, historic design, and whether the project serves the actual affordable housing needs of the island. The Land and Water Council's appeal focuses on drinking water protection, stormwater, PFAS, the town's public wellhead recharge district, and whether HAC improperly waived local and state water protection rules. Jamie Feely, one of the lead developers of Surfside Crossing, said that they did not have a comment at this time. As approved by the HAC, Surfside Crossing would include 156 condominium units across 18 buildings off South Shore Road, near Sherburne Commons. At least 25% of the units are required to be deed restricted as affordable under state law. That's all I have time for. This is your reader, Chuck Gifford, saying goodbye, and thanks for listening.